No way. I think it's working. I'm going back. We're going back online. It's please God, let this work. Okay. Dude, Bill Ackman is is in the chat. No way. All right, so I'm in the space. I'm trying this. All right, let's see. Come on, Jesus. Take the wheel. Let Trump and Elon go live. Yo, Dave, I had to kill my stream. I'm back live again, and I'm waiting. I'm in the space. They could go live any second now.
Did they fix it?
I mean, apparently there's a million people now in this space. Oh,
Oh my god.
Musk is on stage.
Okay, I'll see you later.
All right, peace. This is a momentous occasion. I lost all of my viewers, but it was worth it. Maybe. I'm already in the space. Are they just not talking? Hello, people. I'm back. I'm waiting. I'm in this space. Theoretically, they should start any moment now. But now I'm pretty much out of tasty alcohol. And now I'm just going to go drink more vodka. That's all I have. I didn't bring any mixers in here. I probably should have. I also heard his mic fumbling around for a second. That was the closest I ever felt to the Don, if I'm being honest. Come on. Elon, we got a million people going. You're recording this bitch. All right, I'm going on Twitter. I want to see what Musk has tweeted now. We will proceed with the smaller number of concurrent listeners at 8:30 Eastern and then post the unedited audio immediately thereafter. Well, that's a fucking lie. It's been 10 minutes, Elon. I ain't heard no video recording. Come on, Jesus. Let's do this. It it would be hilarious if Elon Musk was broadcasting from a self-driving car or he was broadcasting from space. Both would be equally funny. Although space would be a little bit more wild. Can I at least complain about they were playing some like stupid elevator music before and now they're no longer even playing that? I was hoping I at least jam out. I'm updated. There's nothing for us right now. Checking my phone. This is good air. This is a good time. All right. Tirani, ask me a question. You can ask me anything. I'll give you an honest answer. Mostly because I don't believe in lying. But give me something.
All right, hello everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against
We did
our
it.
servers, and
We did it.
saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. And this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. And so you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So um, honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices.
Good pivot.
Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And
Yeah.
so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you see, your app
maybe,
going down is awesome.
We could start
Congrats.
off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But what was it like for you?
Not pleasant. I have to be honest. I said there was blood. I had more blood. I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the
It's
ear
just
is
the
the
smallest
place that
amount of
is,
blood.
a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about, because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation. And I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear,
Yeah.
and because it, it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was
Yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to.
I think a lot of people would
I'm
disagree with that,
I'm a
Donald.
believer now. I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was
Hillary
amazing that I
Clinton said
happened to
that to
be
me.
turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle,
Mahatma Gandhi said that
and
to me.
all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe it's
now
a
than I
sign.
ever.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign, you know.
You
it's
can't
an
make this
immigration
up.
sign.
You
But
highlighted a serious issue, and
yeah,
at that moment, the,
that's
the, the,
right.
the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the
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 yeah,
amazing thing is that the sign. I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost
The
somebody
most
that was
sad
great, Corey,
yeah,
situation.
who, a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "That's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife, and you know, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great, and we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people. Also, they were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally.
Am I the only one that's
And we
imagining
thought
yeah,
Trump taking
my
this
first
interview
question
lying
was because I
down
heard
like this on a bed?
bullets flying over me. And I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous
yeah,
thousands and thousands of people. And there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired.
sure,
And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but
yeah,
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the
I don't
the
know if
smoke
that
and the
math
flame
checks
from the
out.
gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
yeah,
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot of people, a lot more people could have been
sure,
badly hurt and killed. So
yeah,
I have to
absolutely,
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. He's been with them for 23 years, and
yeah,
he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
sure,
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have
yeah,
to have in that particular work. But he took
absolutely,
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
yeah,
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
yeah,
because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up
sure.
there with him, so could
Well,
have been very.
I mean that's clearly he was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, I mean, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen?
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people
Yeah.
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were
Millions
seeing
of people
him,
there. Could be
and there
billions.
was one woman with a red shirt and
Right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw the video.
and she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!" You saw it probably. There's a
No, I
guy
saw
up
the
there
videos.
with a gun.
I mean, it's like I guess, I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are, you know, basically people wondering by it, pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and
Yeah.
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun. And he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly,
Okay.
but he fell down. And he did, from what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun. And the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
Yeah.
sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, it's not a
No,
tough shot.
it's not
I like how
it's
the
not a long
experts are
shot.
Don and Eric, like the
Secret
shooting
Service
experts, according to
person had
Trump,
the
are
long
like two
shot. He
dudes
had
who probably have
triple the
Yeah.
distance.
barely done
So,
anything challenging in their
it's-
entire lives.
It was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think, they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
Yeah.
control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
Yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at, some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down, and it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and a lot of press too. There were many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people,
Sure,
because
sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down. But the Secret Service
Yeah.
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing, and
Yeah.
these guys came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate, would jump. They moved so fast.
He likes the
and
lady part.
Let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now, there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody, that building should have been covered. And
Yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that,
thing.
looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite place? What if you So if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no, that
one.
would have been the spot.
Um,
You know what people think
yeah,
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
yeah,
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they
yeah,
think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, he uh,
yeah. But
he
as you
got
said,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been
I mean,
could have been a much
yeah.
bigger problem.
He, but he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So like there was it was a very near thing.
It was a
So
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
well,
not be talking to
I
you.
mean,
Oh, they
spoken
like each
to me from
other.
another realm, perhaps.
This is
Yeah,
actually a
that's
very
right.
cute
We'd be
moment.
talking
This
from
is
a
how
different
friendships are
place.
made.
But it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something," right? And
yeah,
that happens
yeah,
often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
yeah.
didn't. It didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Not
Well,
exactly sure how
it
lightning has
was
anything to do with this
I think
situation, but
your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual, or it
that's
is not.
fair.
It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
thank you very
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood, and they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit in more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was
He got up and
so
got his
many people,
shoes,
and
which is
you could see they were
incredibly
confused. They
funny.
didn't know what to think, and I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that, and they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
yeah,
got up because they didn't know, was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the hand, before the fist in the air. Uh, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did, and when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty
yeah.
amazing. It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but it
it was
was really nice.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Um, well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that uh, saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration
Right.
slide. Maybe this,
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that,
It
since
was. It was.
that slide
You're
saved your
right.
life,
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but
I mean,
I
like,
had to be at
that's
that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. Saved by illegal
Uh,
immigration.
The incredible
100%.
thing, though, when you talk about the odds, you had to
God.
be exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah,
incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
yeah,
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here
yeah,
we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my
I know,
ear.
Taylor. That is
So it was
maybe the
amazing.
greatest
But
quote
when you
I've
think
ever
of the
heard from
odds
Donald
of that,
Trump. Illegal immigration
and
saved my
you know
life.
that
Someone needs to remix
normally you
that
wouldn't
into a
use it. Normally I
song
wouldn't have anything,
immediately.
and then it
Yeah.
would have been a very different story.
That's a final
It's
summer
very much,
track
I
pop
say an act
remix
of God. It's a
of
miracle
illegal
that
immigration
it
saved my
happened,
life.
and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted? With
Well,
the
I was
bullet?
going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area.
Look at
Great,
Elon
these
Musk
are incredible
struggling to
people.
extract any piece
Like
of
the three
substantial
that, in the
information
case
from
of Corey
Trump.
killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As you
prior
were
to
saying,
being
exactly.
so horribly
So,
interrupted.
yeah.
But
Yeah, so rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart; it's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart.
yeah,
But that was the lowest
yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe.
Let's go give this
You
a
see
quick
what
Google
happened.
search.
They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They said it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks.
This was
Catch
the
and
chart.
release in Mexico.
What do you
not
know?
the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
Sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart.
Someone get a plush pillow of the chart
important.
for Donald
Very
Trump.
important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration and especially unvetted illegal
Yes.
immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions,
not
or
good.
a bigger version of that is insane asylums. And many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia. They're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East. They're coming from countries that are uh, stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad
Sure.
when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a
Yeah.
defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is
Uh,
essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border, and
And
uh,
secure elections,
you
too.
know, yeah, absolutely secure elections, and so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our service, our central services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities, um, and as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, and I think I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Um, who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion, but some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like you know, uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. Um, I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And and in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But uh, you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing,
think you're
again,
right.
they're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers, they're taking, frankly, their prisoners, they're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're
Yeah.
delivering them into
But
the.
that's what Castro did.
Yeah,
That
well, he did on a
he
much smaller scale.
yeah,
You know, it was a much smaller
yeah,
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
yeah,
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters, and started
sure,
pulling out the knives, and bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
yeah,
murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
yeah,
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because now she's trying to say she
sure,
had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because She was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with where the problem is. You know, she went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
had nothing to do where the problem
yeah.
is. But she was
Well,
the
well,
border czar, and people
yeah, yeah,
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
yeah,
what happened. You could shut the border down; he
yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But uh, the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No,
It's
it's
I mean
horrible.
whether it's a question of intention or competence. Either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly. So
These are
people
people.
can look at my video and say, hey,
Yeah.
does these people look friendly? I don't look super friendly. So,
These are people that
um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just non-productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah, yeah,
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
yeah,
really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
yeah,
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
yeah. No, no.
we have 20 million people
I
poured
think
in.
is
It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't have
left
a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the four. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
Yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To be
No,
clear,
Mexico
it's
less,
it's just it's just
less
it's
than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico. But the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They drop them. They take them out of jails which is very expensive, to maintain the jails, although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons, they take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, don't ever come back or you're going to be executed. And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America.
just
They're
Earth.
coming from
Rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to
Elon
vote,
is struggling to
from
keep
Earth,
shit on track here.
Even
It's
a few
actually
percent
crazy.
of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible. So,
Well, Elon, we're going to have, to finish this up, we're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country, what they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. The same with other countries.
Sure.
Some are 30%. Some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it? And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably, and some people said, "Oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly," or "I did well in the debate." The first night they said, "Wow." One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out
Taylor,
back behind the shed.
that's about. I'll show you.
Oh, what they did with
You want
this
to see
guy.
the dank bank, Taylor?
And I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad,
The
first of
dank
all,
bank?
the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine.
Is about
and we'd have no inflation.
500
and we wouldn't have
slides
had the Afghanistan mess, if you
no.
think of it.
Oh my God.
And we wouldn't have had
1,700 slides
think of it.
of memes.
You take a
That's
few
what
of
the
those
dank
events
bank
away,
is,
and we have
Taylor.
a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by
This
oil.
This is how I do my job.
No, I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are are thinking about
Taylor,
invading or doing bad things.
I don't have a serious life anymore. My life is to just create memes. I'm already thinking of how I'm going to meme this.
Do they fear?
My brain is breaking. I don't have nearly enough alcohol. I have half a bottle of vodka with me right now. I don't think that's nearly enough to process this conversation.
They would rightfully be. I mean, look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No. He actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline. the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to
Yeah.
fund, and this pathetic president gets in there, and the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
Right?
sense. It's like it's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of
and
them.
it puts the
Yeah.
whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one
It's
of
a
them,
big
and I
deal.
know them well. I know
Yeah.
Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these
Yeah.
are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
Yeah.
believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah,
pass.
yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it
Can
was
someone look
amazing.
into that, please?
In fact, there were articles when I was
I need a
leaving,
fact check
which
on
is
that.
hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil. But they had no money,
Yeah.
and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it.
Don't be a bad boy,
And
Vladdy.
I told him things.
No
that
bad
what I
boys
do.
here.
And he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along
The
well
last
with him. I
thing you
hope to
said
get along well with him
Vladimir
again.
Putin was,
Getting
"No
along
way."
well with them is a good thing, not a
No
bad
way.
thing. I got along well with
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they
Those
were.
like
They were
absolutely-
epic. Everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button works. And then I called him
Yeah.
Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line.
Dude, Trump
All of a
is
sudden, I
remembering his
got a call
highlights
from
right
him.
now. This is like you're
And
watching
they
your
said they wanna
highlight
meet.
reel.
They want to meet me, and we met.
Yeah.
As you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam, and I got along with them great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger.
It-
But
yeah.
President Obama,
It's because they
Obama thought we were going
respond-
to end up in
yeah.
a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah,
got
it's
a
not
lot of
true.
nuclear stuff
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear.
It's-
He can do plenty of damage. So
Yes, I mean it's because people like Kim Jong Un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
well,
And
He and I got it.
if you
He and I
project
had a good
strength,
relationship.
you're good.
Remember,
Yeah.
I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
Let's
that
bring
was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush to a certain
I
extent,
don't
in all
actually
fairness,
necessarily
forced
disagree with that.
Russia and China
That I actually don't
together.
disagree with.
And if you're a history student, the
We
first
don't
thing
need
you
to
learn
be
is you
in
cannot
conflict
let
with these
Russia
countries.
and
They don't
China
actually need to
align.
be a big
But
threat
then
to
they
us.
also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one-eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this far. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been, that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And, Ukraine's
so
having
Elon
a hard
Musk
time.
started this whole thing.
I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's...
Elon Musk started this whole thing saying that he would have a conversation with Trump. And there has been no conversation happening. This is... I don't know if this is intentional or not. If Trump is just talking over him the entire time. If it's meant to be more of a dialogue. I'm kind of confused.
Young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I
Taylor,
can tell you I could have
both.
stopped that. And
or
a smart president could have stopped
two,
that. It wouldn't have happened.
Number 1.
But we had a man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war.
We're back to
He's going to
fifth-grade
cause
insults.
And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to... We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity.
You're ugly, bro.
And, it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from
100%.
other countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection. because it just takes one maniac to, start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places
Yeah.
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to
I'm
me
not sure
that's
how that's
so
possible with
important, the most
hypersonic
important.
missiles.
But with all
Be
of that
nice
being said,
though,
the
but
election's coming up,
I don't know
and
if
the
that's
people want to hear
technically
about the economy
possible.
and the fact
DT,
that they
Absolutely,
can't
sure.
buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy
bro, we
groceries.
just
The
build like an
inflation has killed them.
entire,
Food
like a
prices are up 50,
gigantic
60, even
coliseum
100% in some
around the United
cases.
States,
And this stupid
and we can get the
administration
illegal
allowed
immigrants to
this
build the
happen.
dome too.
And it's a
Has
shame.
anyone thought about that?
And that's the thing
Let's
that
create
people
jobs
most
in
care about,
America
in my
right
opinion.
now.
They care
Force
about the border a
illegal
lot.
immigrants to make the
And
dome.
we've discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah.
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a
Build
pass
No,
on
the
you.
they cannot.
dome.
So they don't
Build
need
the
Elon.
dome.
They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the
Ooh,
single
now we're
most
talking
important thing, but a
economy.
lot of people
Let's
don't.
get
A lot
into
of
it.
people don't understand that, but it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well,
quickly.
I think a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
Right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible?
Right.
And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly
Right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah,
growing.
I
That's
rebuilt
actually
our
crazy.
military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. By the way, we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah.
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
Yeah.
prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the
Look at
the
that
cost
plug,
of energy.
Elon.
Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That
Sure.
has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of
true?
energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going
Sure.
to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah,
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so that the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks said, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s, and the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now they're
Wow.
highly sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's
Sure.
5.7. I
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane,
No
I
way.
saved one, and I
My
said to
plane job, my
Boeing,
paint job of my
man, you guys
plane,
must make a lot of
fucking
money if you
fire,
can reduce the
bro.
price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, and you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items, and
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah, yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd
if
love it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina,
Well, I'd be happy
yeah.
to
By
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat, but
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big.
Malay's
He's
awesome.
great, and
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that he ran on MAGA, and he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called "Make Argentina Great Again." It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut, and I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like two
Yes.
thousand
Exactly.
percent, and they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal, but we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have, I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah.
effectively, and having just like so many departments you can't even name them all, and what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending, he's simplifying things, he's having putting in regulations that make sense, and I and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
That's
in
right.
prosperity, but it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that um, Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um,
That's right.
in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people, and so I think we should not be complacent in the United States and thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy we can run the country into the ground, and that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where
Yeah,
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He he's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
yeah,
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15
yeah.
of them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
Yeah,
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run,
sure.
and maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you
Sun is a
move
huge advantage for
education
sure.
back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation.
Yeah,
But if you think
well,
about it,
yeah,
you'll have some
yeah,
of
yeah,
these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
yeah,
half what it is in Washington. And
yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah,
students in these, faraway states. And it'd
well,
be unbelievable.
yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah,
some of these places are just